Hey, it's time to get down to brass facts. Today we're looking at the HRT Modulus chest rig placard from, HRT. I'm going to be using this exclusively as a chest rig throughout the review. Thus, and by we I mostly mean me, but you guys are kind of like along for the ride for moral support or something. But I'm going to be using this as a chest rig. This doesn't change the outcome or prognosis of the review too much. Occasionally it will. So keep that in mind in this review. I never use this as a placard. That is, I've never attached this to a plate carrier. I just don't run placards for plate carriers. I also have a bunch of extras here that aren't technically part of the chest rig, but I'll still review those anyway. Before getting started, I was in the market for a new chest rig about 2-3 months ago, after finishing up my Haley strategic rig, and in a similar time frame, HRT contacted me asking if I was interested in reviewing their plate carrier, which I was not, but I was actually interested in their chest rig, their Modulus. They sent me the whole package as you see here, and the rest is history. So, saying it straight up, I received this for free. HRT was very explicit in saying multiple times they wanted their opinion on the product and didn't want a sugar-coated review. That being said, I've talked previously about how free gear could potentially influence a review or a reviewer, and or how it doesn't influence a review. I'll have that linked in the top right-hand corner. If you haven't seen that video and you follow this channel a lot, it might be a bit dry, but I recommend watching it. It's one of my more important videos. That being said, I'll do my best to put out an informative review, but you as the viewer should make sure to be smart and understand the circumstance of when someone receives free gear and what that may or may not entail, right? I'm not saying I'm bought out or anything. I'm just putting the cards on the table. All right, let's get started. Let's go over the features of this thing. This is a placard, so fundamentally it's meant to mount to a plate carrier. However, with a series of nylon strings, you can strap this to your body. Considering that's basically all micro rig setups nowadays, nothing incredibly out of the ordinary there. Mags are handled by inserting an insert into this well of Velcro, and you can see these inserts here. You can swap these out for different modules. So for example, a 9mm or whatever PCC module, which has 4, 5.56 as you see here, or a 308, AR-10 style module. All you have to do is hot swap these little elastic inserts. The party trick of this guy is that these are not permanently affixed, and you can swap them out. Give me a second. Here we go. So as you can see, the front of this modulus, or this placard, is Velcroed. Therefore, you can attach different modules and kind of configure it to your liking. There's another flap that goes in here, but I don't want to take all this Velcro off. So yeah, so you can see it right here. There are tabs on the bottom right here that further affix the things. So pictured here, we have the 2 available pouches. This is the general open top one, and then you have a more, we'll call it admin style pouch, like here. And this has Velcro on one side and then kind of organizational things on the other side. You can buy either 2 of these, 1 of these, 2 of these, right? You can customize it, right? This one also has the option of buying a flap that allows you to open and close it, like we've seen on, once again, Spiritus, for example. To be sure, when you buy this thing, you do not receive most of what you see here. The pouches up front are not included. The harness is not included. The mag carrying Velcro things here are included, but it's a 5.56 one, so if you need one of the other ones, you have to buy that. So make sure you buy what you need. Just read the description and it'll tell you what specifically you have. Random aside, for the 4 people that care, this guy specifically was night vision compliant, using night vision compliant materials. However, according to Hoplifile, as I've seen in his footage, their olive drab plate carrier was not NV compliant, nor is the thing you'll see, the Coyote piece that you'll see in a second, that was also not really NV compliant, I don't think. It was hard to tell, right? It kind of skirted that edge. Not really a big deal for most people. However, it's worth mentioning for those that give a shit, especially if that's a department policy or something like that. But the multicam was absolutely NV compliant. On that note, let's get into observations on what I noticed during the 3 months of fairly rigorous usage, and then get on to the meat of this review, the placard. I'm going to go through the accessories, and then we'll get to the main part of the review, the placard. However, before getting into that, let me talk about how the entire system held up. It's really hard to say with any degree of certainty because the reality is a full year review or even a 2-year review is just not something most reviewers like myself can handle. However, in 3 months, the wear rate of the placard is about standard. I didn't notice any abnormal wear, and in some categories it actually performed quite well. Specifically, the zippers held up very well. I'm kind of just a mongoloid, and I kind of yank on my zippers, and these zippers held up very well. That has not been the case with the Haley Strategic minor zipper failures. So very good job on the zippers here. That is not to be understated because zippers are a critical component of this style of gear. The GP pouch held up fairly well. You can see color fading, but that is absolutely normal. Once again, JPC is completely faded out on the bottom. Nothing out of the ordinary there. The H harness is beginning to fray pretty hard around the stitch areas, but not to keep making excuses, but that is fairly typical with nylon gear. When you first get it, there's going to be a kind of a phase of fraying. You hit everything with a lighter, and then it kind of holds down for the long term. But yeah, you can make your own judgment here. You can kind of see the quality. This was pristine, and I used it hard, and this is the result after about 3 months, give or take. All right, let's get into the actual review portion. Let's start with some of the accessories. Probably the coolest part, which is probably depressing for the HRT guys, the hand warmer. I didn't even know these existed. Turns out a lot of people make these, not just HRT, but here we go. We have the HRT hand warmer. If you train in the cold, you know what this is about. You're going to probably wear gloves in the cold, unless you're Canadian, but in that case, you can't have good guns anyway, so it's a moot point. So for us Americans, this allows you to train in some of the colder environments. So you can either wear really heavy gloves, which make shooting miserable, or you can wear thin gloves, which kind of lose their functionality after about 40 or 30 degree weather, and your hands just turn into bricks after a certain point. So enter the scrotum. No, the hand warmer. Honestly, it doesn't really work as a standalone. You're not going to be able to just stick your hands in here and use it as a substitute for even heavy gloves, right? Even if you have thin gloves. So if your hands are going to freeze, even with the thin gloves, this won't bring you back from the brink. It's not insulated enough to accomplish that. However, it has a provision for a hand warmer. I mean, technically you could just toss it in, but you can put it in here, and this allows you to warm up your stuff. Or, instead of a hand warmer, if you sold your soul to the military, you can put an MRE heater pack in here, and it'll warm you right up. Probably great for something like Firewatch, or sitting around a campfire getting smashed off of bush lights. I'm sure there's a use case in between there as well. Use your imagination. The tactical fanny pack. The dangler, the sporran, or the ball tapper, as whatever you want to call it. This fanny pack is either really good for you or not really good for you, depending on how you expect your fanny pack to perform. I keep calling it a fanny pack. How you expect your dangler to perform, right? Everyone has different use cases for their gear. Let me get into it. So if you want a fanny pack that has both the functionality of being able to hold like first aid or large items in the back and have admin pouch capabilities, this is excellent. Right? And it beats the snot out of having a essentially supersized bucket GP pouch where you throw all your shit in it and it kind of just migrates around, and every time you want something you have to dig through all this stuff to get to it, which is a huge pain in the ass. So this is really relevant when you want to carry a lot of small items and be able to access them at a moment's notice due to the dividers, organizational things. However, if you are more oriented towards wanting this fanny pack, the sporran, to carry larger items, well, it doesn't work nearly as well because we're giving up some stuff with this organization, right? Unless you want to take a pair of scissors and cut all this stuff out, a lot of our bulk carrying capability is lost, right? So for me, this as a YouTube brass facts pouch that has all the stuff relevant, like different optic mounting tools, different batteries, the ability to swap out gear, whatever, this is super useful for me, right? And having all the tools on hand is very convenient. I can also see this being very useful for certain military folk that have very small specific mission kit, reconnaissance type kit, like paper, all that. or even certain medical MOSs or whatever. However, if you just need a bag, essentially a GP pouch to hold big items or your first aid kit and that you don't really get into all that often, honestly, a more slimline pouch like, say, the Pharaoh just works a lot better without having the downsides of this guy.
Because this is both a double-decker and it grows downward instead of sideways, and it has all that extra organizational aspects to it, the end result is it's not only difficult to go prone with this guy, but it's also somewhat difficult, or you're impeded with bending ever so slightly. So make sure to get this only if it makes sense for your use case.
Moving on to the main course, the Modulus. I don't have the straps on because that would be a major pain in the ass to have on the table here with it. Technically not part of the Modulus, but these pouches are so integral to the concept of it, we're going to go into them as well. There's two types. There's the closed top, like admin style one, and then there's the open top one right here. Remember, the open top can get a flap, and I'm going to get into why I think you should actually just buy that flap. You can take a pistol pouch and Velcro it in. Thus, you can put 2 pistol mags over here if you'd like, or in my case, tools. And you have quick access to these tools. I'll be real, these pistol pouches don't seem properly sized, so even when you squish it down, there is a lot of space in here. Also, the open top nature is not great, in my opinion, because even if you had things that were sized right in here, this just kind of acts like a giant bucket. So if you ever get into the prone, it just loves gobbling up dirt and sand. And at the end of your training day, you'll do that thing you did as a kid, you know, when you go into the sandbox and play for an hour, and then when you come out, you take off your shoes and you do the little pour, and like half the sandbox comes out. That's kind of what this ends up doing. Another way to kind of demo how inefficient on space this is. Dude, fucking hate Velcro when it comes to... Okay. With this pouch, with these two guys, all that this left pouch could hold were 2 items. However, if we move this over into here, we actually can hold those 2 items plus all this admin stuff and still come in at roughly the same size. So yeah, I don't know or agree or whatever you want to call it. It just doesn't seem to make sense to use this specific pouch or this specific mag carrier in this pouch. It's so inefficient on space. I didn't really think it worked out quite well. However, if you take the flap, put the flap in, fold it over, this becomes a lot more useful and you have a lot more efficient use of space, and I honestly think that is the optimal way to use it. And I will be buying a flap for this guy momentarily. The other part of this pouch was probably my favorite part of the rig. You get a well thought out pouch that actually has organizers and stuff to hold your different pieces of gear. Because functionally speaking, yes, it's like camping. The most efficient way to carry stuff is in a giant open bag. But functionally speaking, having organizers is a huge quality of life increase. Presently, I have a lot of this reconnaissance style gear, note-taking, whatever, in my actual backpack. However, if I wasn't using it in the backpack or I was running a lighter bag, it would actually go into here, and I did do that for quite some time. You can fit a lot of the different things in here, like range cards, note-taking equipment, rangefinder, so on and so forth.
I think in practice, while a big centralized pouch makes a lot of sense, most of the time we are carrying a factor of different size things. Large things like first aid, rangefinders, or more. Medium-sized things, so magazine-sized things, and then very small things, paper, pens, little tools, whatever. And while you could put that all into a large pouch that doesn't have a number of dividers, the reality is if you do that, it's going to be a major pain in your ass, because the large objects want to fall out when you dig around for other things, the small objects want to sink to the bottom. Thus, just understanding this will happen from the outset and having a pouch system for your larger items and then a more admin style thing in a separate pouch honestly kind of really works for me. And I think it's a far more efficient quality of life kind of thing if you use your admin pouches or your chest pouches in this fashion.
On to the mag pouches. That is, these guys over here. I think they work. The mag pouches themselves have Velcro on the top, so even if you miss on the reinsert, it will kind of take the path of least resistance and still work their way into the the actual pouch, though there are certain areas around the corners here that are not Velcroed in, not that you could, and that's an intrinsic problem to this type of design, which is why I frankly prefer Kydex style systems for these inserts. Once again, I do find these seem to be a hair too small for the required area. You'll see large gaps on the side over here, and if I had to guess, it's likely to accommodate the probably slightly larger 9mm or 308 pouches, and then the 5.56 is just slightly smaller. Regardless, how big of a deal is it in practice? Probably not, but it is a thing. The H harness. These are an IQ test, and I have failed spectacularly. Where's the other? Oh shit, what have I done? Robust. Once again, my personal preference is towards X harnesses, but it works, and it is perfectly acceptable and functional. I find these buckles are actually insanely hard to adjust on the fly, even when you break them in, which is moderately annoying. But it is a far superior option to the buckles that break in and then move by themselves, so we're actually going to chalk that up as a slight win. Let's consider this whole thing as a whole. If you use these guys, this chest rig typically runs on the thicker side of things. All that is to say, this functionality does cost us things. It's not impossible to use this setup prone. You just kind of can suck it up, or if you really need to, you can shove this over so it kind of sits on your side and then move it back to the front, and it kind of works. This is personally why I don't run placards on a plate carrier. There's just too much stuff up front. But if you wanted to reduce bulk, the open top sits a fair bit flatter than the admin style pouch. Once again, this is just the cost of doing business. If you want admin pouches up front, it's going to increase bulk. Just noting that this was thicker than other placard type chest rigs I've run in the past. Let's get into the analysis or opinion. Not that I haven't laid on the opinion thick already. I'll start with the easy part. Compared to the competitors on the market, I've tried several already, this is absolutely a robust chest rig that can stand on its own merit. In the firearms industry, we have a lot of categories that are saturated with very slight nuanced differences between all of the different products, and you kind of just pick what fits you. And if this fits you, this is absolutely a competent choice to pick. It lines up exactly with industry pricing for custom style chest rigs, coming in just about $200 for this specific setup. Remember, the other additions like the Sporan, the TQ holder all cost additional amounts. It does rack up pretty fast, but it's right on the line with other systems in this industry. Now here it gets to the trickier part. Would I recommend buying this specifically compared to other things in the industry? Hard to say. From a raw cost perspective, you can buy, even sticking within the HRT lineup, you could buy a HRT Maximus, which has actually this times 2, and is exactly functionally the same, a very similar pouch setup. You can buy a HSP D3CR MWTW6 that I've reviewed previously, or you can buy a number of the other quote-unquote pre-builts where everything is sewn in for just shy of $200, and as a result, you get roughly the same thing, but everything is sewn in, you can't move stuff around, for about $20 to $40 less, give or take. That is not an insignificant cost, especially considering, looking around, most people set up their custom placards the exact same way. You're really not missing out too much in terms of the customizability unless you are specifically seeking it out. However, at the end of the day, $20 to $30 is actually not that much money in the grand scheme of degenerate firearm spending, so take it or leave it. So if you are intrigued by this concept at all, yeah, sure, go for it. Here's the part where I'm going to get very unfair from a lot of people's standpoints, but I think it needs to be said. And this absolutely isn't just an HRT Modulus thing. It's an issue with a lot of the, air quotes, custom placards. Where is the actual customization? Right? Changeable mag pouches. All modern placards do that. Ability to attach things like this. My Condor plate carrier from 2014 can do that. The ability to attach, go from chest rig to plate carrier? Yeah, all placards can do that. The name is Modulus, which I assume to mean, well, it's modular, or the modular variant of the Maximus, which is not what the word modulus means, but that's a slight detour. The question, or the answer to the question, why this over X, I think is something all products fundamentally need, and the answer to that question for the HRT Modulus is customization. But we only have, really speaking, 2, maybe 3 versions of configuration. Why don't we have more options for this ecosystem? It's called modular. Let's actually offer modularity. Beyond deciding if you want a open or closed top pouch. What if we don't want our double D size pouches up front? Why isn't there a super thin pouch that can carry a notebook, maybe a range card, maybe a pen, and sit super flat, single pouch style, so we can get our bulk size down a lot, and then it feels like a very thin line chest rig, while still being the same chest rig. The HRT guys already have a sort of removable quick detach GP pouch. Why not have that up front here? We like our gear being front and center when we're doing run and gun, cool guy shit, but sometimes we need to go prone and set it next to us so when we're doing prone shit for a long period of time, we can keep our mags on us, but we've quick detached our, admin gear, and we can pull out our range bullshit, right? Rangefinder snacks, paper, range cards, whatever, and then reattach it when we want to move out. Or you could put first aid in them if you're a medic, and you could hand out IFAKs. I don't know, right? Where's the attacker attachment module? Where is the... Alright, apparently I came up with some nifty ideas, and a friend of me told me not to work for free, because we may or may not be kind of experimenting with the ideas of making something like this ourselves. Who knows? But the point stands. We're paying about 20 to 30% more to access modularity, so let's actually have some real modularity where we can configure it beyond borderline aesthetic choices between where the pouches go. So in closing, perfectly adequate chest rig on the market, does some things better than other options, some things worse than other options. Once again, it is a variant on the chest rig, and it does it so competently. If this is exactly what you want, it justifies its price tag. If you just want a chest rig, I would get a pre-built personally, so even sticking within the HRT line, the Maximus seems to make more sense there, or other options on the market. But perhaps, if this didn't sell you right away, keep an eye out on it, because surely, I'm pretty sure these guys know the potential here, and I'm pretty sure at some point, I hope at some point, they actually deliver on that actual modularity. Alright, that's been some brass facts for you. Thanks for watching. A lot of growth recently, I gotta say, so thanks guys. Both the viewers, subscribers, and of course the mega pimps, the subscribe stars. This show, this thing, this channel is not really easy to run. It cost me a lot of money to run Brass Facts, so much so that I'm actually in the red and using savings to make this happen. So if you want to keep seeing this project continue at this tempo, or even continue at all, consider doing that thing that all YouTubers say in every single video, like and subscribe! But if you're really generous, consider heading over to Subscribestar and helping me out there. Just a little bit helps, and you do get some perks, some Discord access, some access to the podcast I do with Hoplophile. They're kind of crazy, but they're still fun watching. Just a little thank you. Regardless, even if you don't want to do all this, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in for the next one.
There you go. Go for it. Thirsty bitch. Yeah, you. Come on, drink some water. They're hot, right? Nice and toasty. Literal hot dog. A nice warm loaf. Oh, so